Hi everyone, it's Andrea here from Admire PR, and today I'm joined by John Dray. Delighted to have you with us, John. So please give us an intro. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Hi, Andrea. Well, as you said, I'm John Dray. My company is called Cloud Genius, and my background is in working with IT. The last time I was employed by someone, I was working with lots of multi-billion-pound organizations setting up their Microsoft server farms, so things like Exchange and SharePoint and stuff. And those installations, they take 6 months to set up. You'd need a load of different hacks at the end to get it working properly. And then someone would come along and upgrade one bit of it and they'd break it all again. And yeah, so it was exactly like that. And of course, people with billions of pounds in their pockets, as some of them had, get a little bit antsy when that happens. So anyway, I was working out as a field engineer, and then eventually I ended up as a hosted services manager, where I was setting up sort of cloud-based services even back then, 10 years ago. A friend of mine on the help desk, he said, oh, I'm going off to set up Salesforce consultancy. Well, I didn't know what Salesforce was. So he showed it to me, and you sort of, because it's all software as a service, you sort of say, can I have it? And 15 minutes later, you've got a vanilla installation that works perfectly. It's accessible from everywhere. It's secure. And it just works. And he said, oh, and they upgrade it 3 times a year. So I said, so it breaks 3 times a year? No, they upgrade it 3 times a year. And they've worked out a way of upgrading it so it doesn't break. Oh, okay. Right then. And so anyway, a few months later, I followed him to join his company as a freelancer. And I had to sit on the couch working out a company name. And cloud seemed quite good because it was a cloud-based service. Yeah. And I thought, cloud quite good, cloud mediocre, or cloud genius. I checked it on Company's House, it was available. So I thought, oh, I'll go with that then.
Yeah, happy days. Brilliant. Good story. So how long have you been working with Salesforce now then, John?
Well, 10 years. And it was an interesting start because the basic qualification you get with it is Salesforce Administrator. And you're supposed to have been using Salesforce for 6 months, and you're meant to go on a 2-week intensive course, and then you take an exam and you might pass it. Well, I'm quite good at IT. So I did 2 weeks of self-study, took the exam and aced it.
Oh, well, good. Brilliant. Excellent. So when you're working with a new client and they come to you and say, we want Salesforce, like where do you start?
As a consultant, the question you always have to ask is why. And you don't ask why once, you ask why lots of times, because for charities, you get 10 free licenses. And because it's free is not a good reason to have it. Because if you do, and you haven't thought about why you want it, how it's going to sort of improve your service delivery to your clients, whatever they are, and then how you're going to encourage your staff to use it, then you're going to end up with a millstone around your neck. So I help people think through those questions. Why do you want it? What's it going to do for your organization? What are the outcomes? What is staff going to get out of it so that they'll bother putting the information in? Because unless they can see a real benefit, people will do an arcane procedure that's 20 steps rather than one in the new system because they know the old system and they're comfortable with it. And so
it's that change, isn't it, and something new.
Change management is the biggest thing. So you've always got to think about, why are we doing this? And then within that, because a proper installation will be at the center of the running your organization, you've got to think about, is it in our staff handbooks? How are people encouraged to use it? What stuff do we want out? What sort of service delivery do we want? And what's a budget? Because even a free product costs money because it needs to be configured for how you want it, and lots of other things that you won't have thought about. And it's my job as a consultant to actually help people think through those ideas. And because I like working with charities, I think about how you're going to budget with it, because charities tend to like things that are capital funded with all the money up front, whereas businesses like things that are revenue funded, where it's money going out all the way through. So if a charity's got a grant to get them going, they're going to want to minimize the amount that goes out as a revenue item. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in difficulty. And so I can help with thinking about those sorts of things as well.
Oh, that's a really good point. Hadn't thought about that, but you're right, with the way they businesses and charities fund. How's COVID kind of changed things for your clients?
Well, it's been interesting because a lot of people started working from home. And the great thing with using Salesforce is from your browser to the server farm in the data center is a secure connection. So as long as you haven't got a computer that's infested with viruses, you've got a nice secure connection. But the other thing is that a lot of charities, they've had to reduce the amount of activity because a lot of their volunteers can't go into the offices, all sorts of things like that. So there have been sort of two outcomes, really. One is everyone's able to work from home, no extra setup, no installation software, all that stuff. They just start working from home. And we can secure that with two-factor authentication and all other security measures. So that's safe. Yeah. But where organizations have lost volunteers, they've suddenly had to think about, well, we had this volunteer, and every time someone came in, they sort of marked that the person had attended the appointment, and they sent an email about the follow-up appointment, and then they recorded the fact they sent an email. And we haven't got a volunteer to do that. And they said, could we automate that? And I say, yeah, that's what computers are good at. They're reliable. And so what we've been able to do is automate a lot of those really tedious tasks, do them better because computers don't get bored. And then it means that actually the volunteers, when they come back, will have more interesting work to do that promotes the values of the organisation. So it's win-win-win.
Brilliant. That's the win, isn't it? So isn't it interesting how something like the pandemic has kind of forced that to happen? So that's there's some positive things out of it. I know that you've developed a new product with Eventbrite. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it was about 8 years ago, and the Royal Society for Arts and Manufacturers, they got their marketing people. Obviously, they're running tons of events. They're all registered in Eventbrite. And then they wanted to get that data out of there and into Salesforce so they could follow people up. Why didn't you attend? Oh, you attended. Did you enjoy it? You're going to attend in 3 weeks' time. Here's where the parking is, all those sorts of stuff. Now, if you know marketing people, they're not good at that sort of repetitive task. It's not their skill set at all.
Can't believe
and so a couple of months after the event, they would half-heartedly import stuff into all the wrong fields, and then they might deal with some of the duplicates and other stuff. So wrote this product, and so it'll sort of match up people and really cleverly. So if they've used a different email address each time, it'll cope with that. If they've spelt their name incorrectly, but they're already in the database, it'll cope with that. If they stick in stupid job titles like none of your business, it won't overwrite that in the database. It says, oh, if they've said none of it, we'll ignore that. We'll just leave it, right? And instead of doing it 2 months after the event, it's doing it every hour, which means that you can then trigger off all those emails, which help build excitement around the event. You can find out why people didn't turn up. You can say, oh, you did turn up. Did you enjoy it? Got any comments? And so then you can change your offering. And if you change your offering, then as long as you do it the right way, you're going to end up with more people coming who enjoy it more and build your fan base. So it's sort of like a winner, really. And we've got another organization that's using it, and they've got about 12 departments because none of the other products out there can connect to multiple Eventbrite accounts. So it's one of the special things of it. And with all the data entry and import, because they couldn't use any other product. And in fact, they said, oh no, we connect to multiple Eventbrite products. You can't help us. And I said, we need a further conversation, which is great. And if you look at the time it's saving, it's probably saving them £20,000 a year.
It's got to be. Yeah, it's someone's job, isn't it, basically? Yeah, saving.
Or possibly more.
Or more, yeah.
And it's reliable and it just does it. And so when the person's attended, it updates the little record, says they've attended. And I get very excited about it because I sort of look at it and I think, oh, it's great. And it's set up to be reliable. So I get about a service call every year or two normally.
Oh, okay.
Normally it's because they've done something wrong and we have a look at it and we sort of say, oh, you've done that. And they say, oh, yeah, haven't I? And that's it.
Oh, it sounds really, really handy, and especially I think with the way that events have moved online as well, at the moment, and there'll be some kind of hybrid for some time, I'd imagine, of online events and in-person events. You do that kind of following up and the record keeping of people who've attended and not turned up, and that becomes even more vital. There's a lot more sort of going on online, isn't there? So it does sound like a brilliant product.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I love people saying it's a brilliant product. But anyway, but yeah, no, it's and it's exciting because if you do it sort of the manual method, if you have twice as many events, you need twice as many staff. Well, you have twice as many events, same cost. 100 times as many events, we might stick the margin up slightly, but not 100 times. And so it means your organization becomes scalable. And one of the books I've read recently that I love is E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Great book, yeah.
And it's one of those books you read it and you think, I see where all those management experts nicked all their stuff from.
Yeah. It's just like to me, it's just that book is the beginning, like that's got it's a really, really great book. I'll put it in the link actually and this recording.
Well, I mean, obviously I could talk about it for hours, but I've got 3/4 of an hour in March on the 11th at noon where we've got Lunch and Learn, where I'm being interviewed by someone else, and Kim Jones of HGKC. And we're going to talk about it a bit more and how it can work with charities. I mean, it's a product that also works with commercial organisations, but we'll be having a little bit of a look and just show how immensely complex and difficult it is not to use.
That sounds great. Or we'll put that link in as well, John. So I've got a little final question. So I know when I met you, someone said, oh, John the Bee, and I was like, John the Bee, who's that? And it's you. Why are you known as this locally?
Well, when I moved to Wales, one of the things I've been wanting to do was to keep bees. And when I'd been living down in West Kent, a nun had taught me how to keep bees, and I'd just been dying to do it, and moved here, and I walked up the garden and I thought, oh, I could keep bees. And I do. And the lovely thing here is that there are no crops. It's all sort of livestock and things. So there are just tons of wildflowers and things. And I sort of half joke, that it's a bit like drug pushing, because people sort of say, how much for a jar of honey? Oh. I said, oh, £7.50. They said, that's a lot, isn't it? I said, oh, just try some. It's all right. And that's their first sample. There's no going back. And then they come back, and I enjoy it. So I've got some at the bottom of my garden. I've got some round on a friend's small holding. Okay. And it's just a joy because you see the bee. They've already started this year. So they're on the hellebores at the minute, gathering in pollen, which is their sort of protein source to make new babies. And so you think, yeah, it's all happening, spring's coming. And I love the way it keeps me in tune with the seasons as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Is it quite early for them to have started now, or is this about normal?
No, this is about right. The queen
Mm,
starts laying eggs again in mid-January or late January.
okay.
And so this time they're either out getting water to dilute honey, which is their winter food source. That's why they
Mhm.
collect it. They're just too good at it, so they leave an excess for us.
Yeah.
And so they dilute that for their own food, but they're also out seeing if there's any early pollen. So things like goat willow is one of the first. Obviously, I've got hellebores in my garden, but they'll soon we'll get dandelions. Oh, it's one of
Yeah.
the funny things. I went to a horticulture club, and they said, "What are all the things we should grow for the bees?" And I said, "You're not going to like this: dandelions, brambles." Weeds.
Yeah.
And they said,
Oh
"You're right, we're not going to like that."
no. Oh my goodness, that's funny.
An
I
ivy
love
for the end of the year.
Oh, they'd probably be all right around mine then. Yeah. Thank you, John. Thanks so much for insight into your work and your bees as well. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, that's all right. It's lovely to speak to you, and catch up with you soon, I hope, Andrew.
Yeah.